Alrighty, we are back, and today I want to talk about TURs. This is something that I have not done in a good while, just because of the fact that right now has been a very LR-centric sort of GDC that we've had over the last month and a half or so, and it's just sort of the way that the cookie crumbles. It's just the way it is. So haven't had a ton of time to talk about TURs, Easy A TURs, Super Easy A's in terms of the ranking format, but I do have a lot to say in terms of everything else, right? With how good the characters are, how usable they are, where they rank in terms of a tier list and stuff like that. We definitely can talk about that today. So that is what we are going to be doing. We are going to be looking at Super Easy A's in this video. We are going to be looking at Easy A's, and then we are going to be looking at Dokkan Fest TUR. Just regular Dokkan Fest release that have come out in the last year or so. So that is what we are going to be doing. Now, quick disclaimer on the tier list here that I am using, the GT Hero Pan and Trunks units are not on here, but I would put them both in the S tier. So just keep that in mind. The physical Pan, the STR Trunks would go in there, and then the A tier would have that baby, Super Baby 2, and then GT Goku. Unfortunately, they just can't be ran in most events, so that is why they are in the A tier. So that's just a quick disclaimer. And then also keep in mind, this is just stuff of my opinion. They are going to be ranked in tiers and not 1 to 10, and the tiers are not going to be ranked. This way, we don't have such a divisive sort of opinion on all of these different characters, and it just makes it a little bit easier. So with all that being said, let me know what you agree with on this list. Let me know what you disagree with on this list, and let's go ahead and get started. So we'll just kind of go down the list, right? These characters we have here, they're not ranked in any particular order here. And the first character we're going to talk about is the man, the myth, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Now, I think Z is where I want to put this guy. I think just in terms of like the competition of TURs, this guy is going to work extremely well on a GT Heroes team. He's able to provide some pretty insane offensive numbers, has that initial defensive capability with the damage reduction right away. That is just going to be a super important aspect to his kit, where we are in this sort of 1 to 2 to 3 turn, not 1 turn, but like 2 to 3 turn meta right now with the way that the game is working. And he has this 80% damage reduction off the start, and then also a 70% chance to counter it for 10 turns. So this is a guy you could potentially toss into slot 3. He's going to work very well for you. You could toss him into slot 1 on some of these initial turns, and he'll do okay. 80% damage reduction and nothing else is not going to be enough to deal with like Gohan and Trunks in terms of like the normal attacks right away, because they just hit too hard, unfortunately. But where I think this will count is when you are not thinking about like 4 million normals and 11 million supers right off the bat. And if it's one attack on the end there for Gogeta 4 and it's a super, he has a 70% chance to counter that as well. So I think that he was very well done in terms of an Easy A design. I think he probably could have been a little bit better defensively, but having that initial 80% damage reduction is nice. Being effective against all types is nice. Being able to stack in the way that he does, you guys can see here, he is a massive attack stacker. So you are going to have some absolutely insane numbers in terms of like where this character is going to be with the attacking, right? And like you could just imagine where this guy is going to be in the Festival of Battles and things like that in terms of his attack. In like the modern red zones that are going to like 15 turns, he's going to be able to stack that attack up pretty high. And he just works well on a lot of the good teams right now. We think about Giant 8 Power. That's a pretty good team. Fused Fighters is a really good team. Power Beyond Super Saiyan is a really good team. GT Heroes is a pretty good team, right? Earth Protecting Heroes, you can run them on the Tech Vegito lead. You can run them on the AGL Gogeta lead. You can run them on the STR Goku and Vegeta lead. You can run him on the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta lead. There are just a lot of different ways to run this character, and I think that is what puts him up as high as I have him on this list. I just think he's an all-around solid Easy A TUR that you really can't go wrong with running in most events. Sometimes he's going to get caught. That's just the nature of the game, but right now Dokkan has really been emphasizing a kit philosophy where characters just have their major strengths and their major weaknesses, and it just ends up being a bit of an issue. So Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, to me, easy Z tier. Let's move on to Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who I'm going to be putting in the S tier. I don't think he's quite on the level of some of these older units, but I do think he is very well equipped for specific situations. In terms of GD, I almost slipped there and was like, oh my God, he's really good. But in like GDC content, I think he can be okay. But I do have a bit of an issue with him because defensively, I just don't think they gave him enough to the point where it's like, oh yeah, this is a solid character that I'm going to be running everywhere as often as possible. I definitely do not think that is the case. I think he's good, but I don't think he is great. I like his defensive support that he is providing for the team. I like his ability to do additional supers. That's always been nice for your boy when I've been running him. But just to take a brief look at him here, it's always nice to just have the kit for reference. He has, to me, I really just like his support. Defensive 40% support, right? Getting that extra damage reduction rate is very nice. Getting defensive raises here, right? It's just like there's some good stuff in here, but not great stuff. Can do multiple supers, has this extra attack in the second slot, right? Gets a guaranteed crit when there's another GT Heroes ally, right? Which is very easy. This is really the only area that I'm ever running this character. So, like, that's all fine and dandy. But again, I just don't think, like, defensively he has enough to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, this character is extremely consistent and very, like, I like running him everywhere. Now, again, this high chance to counter a super. This is always nice. I'm always a big fan of when they add that to characters, just because, again, if he's like in a slot 3 situation and the one attack is a super, you can potentially put him up to that chance where he does have like a decent ability to sort of work around it. Now, is that a guarantee? Absolutely not. But I think it is a decent start for a character like this where you have something like that in the back pocket where you're going to be able to get certain buffs like that. So don't hate him by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely think he could have been a whole lot better, all things considered. So that's where I'm going to have him, S tier. Let's move on to Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who is going to be a little bit of the opposite, and we are going to put him up into the Z tier. I really like what this Super Saiyan 4 Goku is bringing to the table. I just think he's a lot more consistent than this Vegeta, and it's kind of tough to explain why. I guess if we pull him up, it'll be a little bit easier to understand. But if we go over here to our boy Goku, we can close him out. We go over here, right? We have the damage reduction. This is all the same. We get the attack support, great chance of performing a crit. I just like his numbers better. And I just think he getting this extra defense here in the second slot, right? Getting this with the super attack, getting the chance to counter it, and the attack support is going to make it so Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta here, right, is just doing more damage. This guy's doing more damage. These guys are doing more damage. And you know what's a really nice way to protect a character like this from potentially taking that super, potentially taking normals? Taking out the boss with attack support and letting this guy go to work. I think that is a very like good aspect of this character. Now, that isn't to say he's perfect or anything like that. I just think he's a bit more consistent and overall better than this Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta right now. So that is why I have him up in the Z tier. I like this guy a lot more than I like Vegeta, which is definitely unfortunate, but it's just sort of how the game is going right now. And can't say too much there, but I do like him a lot. So let's go ahead and move on to the next of the GT Super Easy A's, and that is going to be Omega Shenron. Now, I'm sort of freestyling this one. Usually I would, sit down and do all the tiers, but I think with TURs, it's pretty simple, so I'm not doing that. But with STR Omega Shenron, I actually don't. I'm kind of between S and Z. I'm going to go Z. I think he's really good. And then I'll also just toss his partner up here as well. STR Omega Shenron, I think, works really, really well right now in terms of like the GDC content. When you have him on a turn with the physical Omega Shenron, and like if like for whatever reason you end up with like the cursed rotation of Super Saiyan, not even Super Saiyan, but this Omega Shenron, and then this Omega Shenron, that is a lot of attack debuffing. It is very hard for the enemy to really do damage to you on this Omega Shenron team. So this STR Omega is like a perfect floater on that team, right? You put Sin in the middle, you put Nova Shenron in the middle, you put the Legion of Shadow Dragons in the slot. When I say middle, I mean slot 2, and you're able to have this Omega link up with the Legion of Shadow Dragons and this STR Omega link up with the Legion of Shadow Dragons. I think they end up working out very, very well. And this Omega, especially with the physical Omega's domain up, just does absolutely insane work. And this kit is not right at all. If we do this, is this going to update it? There it is. I was going to say that is not what he does. Okay, so that's a little better. When we look at this here, we're getting the debuff, and then we are also getting some additional debuffs here, and then we are giving support with attack 40. Then we're also going to be getting 60% support this way. Then we're going to have extra chance of performing a crit, extra damage reduction. Then we're going to have another additional here, gets more additionals, right? In slot 3, this guy is consistently, for me, putting out insane attack stats, having really good defensive ability with damage reduction and stuff like that. And he is just a really consistent character in that third slot. And he works really well on the physical Omega team, which is one of the best teams in the game right now, especially for the new GDC content. So I think that right now this STR Omega Shenron is just really, really good for the scape of the game. And I think they did a really good job with this EZA, because typically you would think with a character like that, that would not be the case. It would be like, oh, the villain is going to get the short end of the stick here. But no, I think in this case, like, this guy is way, 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 way better than Vegeta and is extremely consistent in that third slot. Again, his fatal flaw to me is the fact that he does not link with the physical Omega Shenron. And I'm not going to fault him too much for that, because that's just inherently how the game is. And the game decided to not let you link up those characters with the same name characters. And maybe that's an update that they address in this major update that's coming up soon. But again, I'm not going to sit here and make any guarantees, but I think that is definitely a possibility for this Omega and the character like the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. I think that would be really good for the game right now. And a lot of people will be able to benefit from that, because this Omega, if he was able to link up with the physical one, would be an absolutely insane rotation. So maybe in the future, again, I'm not going to speak on it like it's already a thing, but if it potentially does happen in the future, this guy's stocks could potentially go way, way up. So really like this STR Omega Shenron. Let's move on to Tech Sin, who might just be the best TUR in the game right now. I think you could really make the argument. If you guys if you didn't hear me say it's like ranked, we'll just do something like that, right? Like, he is absolutely incredible. When you have all of this damage reduction here, right? So we get 10% damage reduction support right away from Omega Shenron. And if he is on rotation with 2 of the physical Omega Shenrons, do you know what that means? He has 100% damage reduction with 4 key spheres, which is extremely easy to do because he's a rainbow key sphere changer. And rainbow orb changers are the most valuable orb changers in the game, to a point sometimes where it's almost a fault of the character, where it's like, oh my God, we are doing way too much rainbow orb changing. The entire field is just rainbow orbs, right? And that is definitely like something that can potentially happen on this team, but I don't think that's enough of a reason to be like, oh, this team is like horrible, right? This is like the one of if not the best TURs in the game right now across this short form content that we have for this extra damage reduction. And even when he loses this damage reduction rate with 1 Omega, he still has 50% damage reduction, which is not horrible. A lot of characters would get like this 40% damage reduction, and then they would just lose it with no other ways to obtain it. And with a character like this Sin Shenron, we have 40% right here, and then we also have the additional 10 from Omega despite losing this. So if there's 2 Omegas, we have 100. If there's only 1, we have 90% damage reduction. This is a guy who can potentially go into that slot 1 in the Gohan fight and not take the super, but he can deal with those 4 million normals, which are very pesky and can get rid of a lot of characters. So I think that, especially linked up with physical Omega Shenron right now, I think he's too good to not put him in the Z and at the top of Z if we really want to do that. So really, really like what this Omega is bringing to the table, or Sin is bringing to the table, excuse me. And he's just a really good TUR. So next up on the list, we have Pan. And Pan, I'm going to put an S. I think the physical Pan is just as good, if not better, that sub EZA. But with this Pan, she is also very good at making Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta look a lot better. Now, the issue with this Pan, we'll kind of keep this one brief because we are spending a lot of time talking about some of these characters. But with this Pan, to me, it's just defensively, she doesn't cut it. And it's unfortunate because I think she is good, but if she's not dodging, she's in trouble. And that's really what it comes down to. I think she's good enough to the point where I don't think she's worthy of A. I think there's only like a few characters. There's not going to be a ton of characters I put an A on here, but she, excuse me, is really, really good. For a banner unit, right? Has this extra support, makes Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta look as good as he can look, and has this extra damage reduction, but again, it's just not enough. This Scouter, very, very valuable. Having a Scouter, you guys know, we talk about physical Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta being better than the gods, at least in my opinion, and the main culprit of that is the fact that he has that permanent Scouter when you transform. So that is why I have him over the gods, but Pan, again, being able to have this is like, oh, okay, we're fused into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. We know where to put him. We know where we can put this guy because he has a 70% chance to counter it. Maybe we have to put this guy in front of a super or in slot 3 where a super's at because of the fact that we know it's there and he has a 50% chance to deal with it. So a Scouter, really valuable, but I think normals, especially these modern normals, are just too much of a threat for this Pan to be worthy of the Z tier, but I do think she is very, very good. Not too much to say about Pan. Otherwise, really good character. Just again, not top of the line for me, and that is okay. Now, let's move on to AGL Rosé Goku Black. Now, with Rosé Goku Black, a lot of good stuff to say about this character. Good support, works well on the Omega Shenron team, which I value a lot right now. I just think that is one of the most important elements to the game. How are you working on that Omega Shenron team? Because it is one of the best in the game right now, for sure. Not really too much to say other than that. He works very well with the clones, the new LR Rosé, providing that support really good, right? We look at this. What's going on with this website tonight? We want the easy A. So we're going to press pre-easy A, and then we're going to go to easy A. There we go. So 50% damage reduction rate right here. Gets a guaranteed additional super. We're going to be up to 70% damage reduction. We have really good support, 2-turn support potentially for specific characters. I just really like the way that they designed this unit, getting this extra crit chance for 2 turns. Always nice to have extra damage reduction, extra crit is working extremely well on teams like this. We have key 3, attack and defense support right here. So we have 70% damage reduction, decent chances to crit, extra defense if we're low, right? Getting this extra defense on the buff. This character just works extremely well in that slot 3 spot or slot 2 spot, just depending on where a super may be. Can really hold it down for you on that Omega Shenron team, giving this extra support on top of the support Omega is giving. Just there's so much support on that team that it really is just hard to keep up with when it's like all these characters are just bathed in so much support, and supports are like the crutches for units that may not be like the absolute best. If you can drench them in support like you can with this team, this is how the team is going to go from a 8.5 to a 9 or 9.5 to a 10. Right? We think about a character like the physical Super Saiyan trio. Why did people talk so highly about that character? It was the support. Why did some people have LR Bulma above LR Orange Piccolo when she came out? It was the support, right? LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku, that power beyond Super Saiyan support, right? That's just the Giant 8 power support. That is just really what separates some of these characters, and that is going to be the case here with this Rosé Goku Black, so that's why I have him up here. Let's move on to Vegito Blue, who again is going to be up in this high Z tier. I think Vegito Blue is just an example of a really good superclass character, and they addressed his most fatal flaw, which was the fact that super attacks were just a death sentence for this character for a very long time, and now we have an option to sort of work around that, right? With this I guess we just got to like quickly click this and then it'll come up. But with this super here, we have this high chance to evade and then an 80% chance to dodge when HP is 70% or less. We have this super class support for 2 turns on top of everything else that he's doing. 2 turns here. We have extreme class support for Future Saga. We are effective against all types, which is pretty easy to get with like the Future Blue Boys, with Rosé Goku Black, with LR Rosé and Zamasu, with the clones. Very easy to get there. We have this damage reduction rate of 60%, having counters, the chance to dodge now with super attacks. This dodge chance is just so essential for what's going to happen here. We have counters, we have additionals, we have rainbow key sphere changing. We talked about that earlier. I just think this is a bang up super easy A that they did an extremely good job of designing, and Z tier I feel like is where he belongs. So don't want to talk about him for too long, but again, I think that his team with Future Saga, it is much better than what it was before GDC, because we have this guy, right? Still very good. The Trunks of Vegeta Easy A is decent. The Inmerge Zamasu Easy A is decent. We have these clone characters, AGL Rosé, Physical VB. That team just has a lot of modern releases, a lot of new LRs, a lot of Easy A's, and it just works out very well that he happens to support all of those characters in that spot. So that is why I'm going to have him here. Let's talk about the next unit on this list, which is one of the older releases that we have on here that isn't an Easy A, or that isn't like a super Easy A. It is Yamcha. I said that like we don't have this guy and stuff like that, but Yamcha. I think Yamcha is high S, borderline Z. I'd be willing to say S+. I really like the dodging that he's able to do, and I don't think I run this Yamcha enough. I think that's really like something that I have to work on a little bit, is running this Yamcha a little bit more. He is really, really good. And some people are arguing him like extremely high. And honestly, I think S might be a little bit of an underrating for him. If you want to argue him in Z, I'm completely fine with that. But we have this chance of dodging right here, a high chance to dodge, so it's a 70% chance to dodge right here. And then for every rainbow key sphere, we're going to have some extra dodge as well. So really, yeah, I kind of see the vision. I'm going to put him in Z. Just the ability to have all that dodging in modern content on top of being an Earthbred Fighters leader and stuff like that really just kind of gives him that early utility that characters are in desperate need of right now for this new content. And he is definitely just going to be able to hold it down for you with the rainbow orbs. If we look at it again, you guys can see we're starting off at 20% for 1 turn. right? That's right away, just a 20%. Then we have a high chance of evading. That's 50%, right? Then if we get 3 rainbow key spheres, that's 30%, 50%, 20%. What is that? You do the math, right? Then for every super attack that we perform, we're also going to get more chances to dodge. So maybe we only get 2 rainbow orbs and we're at to 90%. Then we do another super, we're over to 100. So we just have a lot of chances here. We get buffs for dodging, which is super easy to do. And we're going to be our own rainbow key sphere changer. So we're able to get those extra dodge chances. So this Yamcha, an extremely well-designed EZA. And that's all I needed to see. All of this dodging that he is able to do is what puts him up here in this Z tier. So that's why I have him as high as I do. Really like this Yamcha. And I'm realizing there are a lot of Z tier characters right now. There are actually a lot of really good TURs, more than I thought. So let's go ahead and move on to Mercenary Tao. You guys know where he's going. He's going up here, right? I think he's really good, has all the stuff that you're looking for in a TUR, has offense, has defense. If you can stun the character, he gets up to attack almost over 1,000 if the enemy is stunned and you're under 70% HP. We're getting extra defense here. We have a baseline damage reduction that's pretty good. We have a good intro rate or intro buff right here. So we have 50% damage reduction. Then we have 30% right here. Really, really good stuff. Lot of extra attack, a lot of extra defense. We can counter unarmed super attacks, and we can stun all the enemies potentially for 1 turn if we have our intro buff. So if this is if you need to go into battle hard and formidable foes, I know that kind of sounds random, at least in terms of like the tier of fights that we're talking about here. But if you need to go into that fight and you're like, I don't know how to set this up and stuff like that, what you do is you run the Mercenary Tao team. He stuns phase 1, makes every phase 1 free, and you're good to go. That's really what it comes down to with this character, right? That is how good he is and how much he can just kind of carry you in those events. Really like the way they designed this Mercenary Tao. I think he's really good, especially with somebody like LRTN. This is not an LR list though, so that is why he is not going to be on here, but overall I think he is really, really good. So Mercenary Tao, that's what I got to say about him. Let's move on to Kale and Caulifla, who I'm going to put in the S tier. I think they're really good, and then they have really good stacking and stuff like that. I just don't like every single team that you're running them on. I don't feel like they're a Z tier option for every team that is in the game at the moment that you're running them on. I think they're really good. Their initial dodge chance is great. They're stacking. I think the heal that they have in later on in the fight is really good. So that's always nice to have. Just kind of closing out some of these tabs here, characters we talked about. But Kale and Caulifla, it's like Universe 6 is a bit of a weird category, and I feel like that's kind of where their bread is buttered, right? So it's like you have LR Kale and Caulifla, you have Hit, you have Boda Magetta, right? Like they're decent. You have these two right here, and they're really good. So I don't really have too much negative to say about these characters. The high chance right here, and then the another high chance, and then we have this 20%. So we have to get those 3 attacks to get the 90% chance to dodge. So we are relying on this 20% right here, and then a 70%. So a 70% is nice, but it's not like guaranteed dodging like AGLUI would be, or what Yamcha could potentially be at. So that's why I have them down here. I think they would be a little bit inconsistent at times, but I really do like the way that they're designed. I think they're a really good Festival of Battles character. They can stack up really nicely, and you're going to find that they work very well. So Kale and Caulifla, not too much negative to say. I think they could have been a little bit better, or they could be a little bit better, but in the current meta right now, you want like those guaranteed sort of things going on with like Sin Shenron. You have that guaranteed 90% damage reduction if he's next to Omega, right? We have the 70% chance to super here, but they also have really high offensive defensive to boot, right? The same thing here. You're getting the guaranteed debuffing. You're having the guaranteed support, the dodging, the really guaranteed high damage reduction, right? That is sort of why these characters are in the D tier compared to them, where they have a good chance to dodge, but needing those 3 attacks first could potentially put them in a little bit of a troublesome spot. So that's why I have them in S. I think they're really good. But let's move on to the next character, which is going to be Hit. And I think they're going to go Z. It's a bit of a tough call with Hit, but I think Z is probably where he belongs with his action breaks, with his ability to stack in longer content. We do have the chance to dodge here. This isn't going to be a slot 1 character, but then we have so many different ways to debuff the enemy with specific teams right now after we do the 3 super attacks as well. It's going to be the same case with this Hit, but it again is the interrupting. He has an action break, and then he also has this version of himself where he transforms, and then he becomes much better too, and then he has the 70% chance to dodge. You can't dodge him. You get the action breaks as well. Get all this extra stuff in here, so that is why I have him as high as I do. Then when we receive an attack with an enemy, so like if they super in slot 2, you're going to have that 86% chance to dodge. So overall, really like Hit. I think Z tier is definitely where he belongs. Let's move on to Daima Goku, who is very good as well. nice multi-turn support, very good links with almost every character in the game in terms of like Super Saiyans and stuff like that. Really like the way that he operates. I just think he is a little bit dated at this point. Good dodging though, so he can kind of plug and play in a lot of teams that you're going to need him to play on. And I think that is overall going to be a good case for this Daima Goku. So Daima Goku is moving a little bit different. I like him a lot. I like his counterpart release better, but I think Daima Goku ends up working out very well for us here. If we go over to the Super Saiyans, again, I am a fan of this Daima Goku for sure. Could he have been better? Sure. But you could say that about literally like every character in the game, right? They could have been better. So if we go here to Daima Goku, we have this support right here. This attack 41% is so nice, right? Damage reduction, high chance to dodge. In slot 2, you have this extra dodge chance right here. Then we get extra attack for every time that we're dodging. So that is always going to be good. We're getting multiple supers, right? Damage reduction, things that we were looking for. Dodging and damage reduction are timeless mechanics. And on top of the support, I just think that it ends up working very well. I think he's a little too recent to be in the A tier. He does enough to the point where I like him in S, but he definitely is very good. Now, let's move on to Goten and Trunks. Now, with Goten and Trunks, I like them in S because they are like a top of the line character for the youth setup, which is a team that is in the works at the moment, right? Where we have you, right? So you're really good. Pat the Power Kid Goku, I think, is pretty good. This Gohan EZA is very nice. You have this guy right here, Mighty Mask. I think they're very good as well. Kid Goku works out pretty decently. And then you have a character like this Goten and Trunks. The problem for me was they were getting absolutely torched even in the seriously serious fight. So it's like, it's either they dodge or they die. And if you are just literally dodge or die and you don't have like other than the active skill, unless you have like an immediate way to have something like that, I think it's tough to justify S for them. I don't think their numbers are exactly like Z tier, but they can look extremely impressive. And on that active skill with the guaranteed dodging, I think they are very, very, very good. So I'm going to put them in S, and let's go ahead and move on. Next up is Namek Vegeta. This is a very simple evaluation. He is good for the Festival of Battles. You're not really running him anywhere else. So we'll quickly move on from that. Next up, I've got our boy Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I think Super Saiyan 3 Goku is very good for some of the short form content. He has guard and 90% damage reduction. That is a very good sort of one-turn appearance setup for this guy. The issue for me, though, is that it has to be slot 1, and that damage reduction is going to wear down off of 90% after you see him again. So for a 2 or 3 turn fight, that's very good, but it could become a little bit of an issue if you're going 4 or 5, which a lot of content does go, right? It's not like every fight in the game is 3 turns. So that's why I have him in S. Does a lot of good damage, has some crits. His damage actually isn't the best. It's just the defensive capabilities. You guys know how he operates at this point. So that's why I have Super Saiyan 3 Goku in S. Let's move on to Fat Boo, our boy Fat Boo. He has seen quite the resurgence recently. Z is a little bit high, but I just think in terms of the new content, he is literally perfect. You can't ask for much more from a TUR when it comes to this Fat Boo. I think that Fat Boo right now, with his revival, his ghost usher, his ability to stack, his guard, you have so many different ways to use this character, and he gives you 2 free turns in a fight that goes 4 turns. Do you know what that means? Half of the fight, you're not taking damage, or you're having a guaranteed second life. So that is so, so valuable in this content that we have these days. And that is why he has to be in Z. This unit is aging like a fine wine. It's awesome to see. It's so fun to use this character and see what he can do, right? The guaranteed revival turn and that ghost usher. Oh, baby, it is fun. So next up, we have Beerus. I'm going to put him in A. Pretty good Realm of Gods, pretty good movie boss, right? Little planetary destruction, all that fun stuff, exploding rage. He ends up working out pretty well. Where I really like this character over some other ones is the fact that he has the giant form or the rage mode that can potentially take away supers and potentially take away or stun enemies on the 12 key. So that's where I really like this character right now. Not too much to say. Let's move on. Buhan, really good domain, really good support, makes some of these other extreme class characters look extremely good, no pun intended. Trying to just set this up here, right? I'm trying to like avoid you guys seeing those characters, but it doesn't really matter. So with Buhan, I really like Buhan. I just don't know if right now he is tanky enough, and you have to run his team in a specific way to sort of get this domain up. And when you can't get that domain up, you are not really going to be looking good with this character. So I think A is probably where he belongs. Next up, we got Buhan, one of the best super easy A's in the game. I think he's been replaced a little bit in terms of some of these other super easy A's that we've seen on the list, but damage reduction, crits, multiple supers. This guy is an absolute slayer in terms of like easy A's and stuff. This guy is really good. I know that sounds funny, but he is decent in the short form content, right? Not really much of a stacker though, not a character I'm taking into the Festival of Battles, but if you need somebody who's going to be impressive right away and can hold it down for you in most forms of content, that is where this Easy A Buhan is going to come in. I think he's very well designed. Probably could be a little bit better, but you got to keep in mind he also came out during, I think it was like pre-10th anniversary or like right around the 10th anniversary, and he was like the best Super Easy A in the game. So really well designed unit, but I think S is where he belongs. And that's going to be the same thing said here for the Golden Week Goku and Vegeta from GT Easy A's. They did a bang up job with those. They work extremely well on the Giant 8 power team. They have their orb changing. They have those extra buffs per the rainbow orbs. They have decent offense, decent defense, right? This Vegeta is really good defensively. And then this Goku is one of those characters where you can set up like a nuking setup for him and he can tear through this new content as well. So very well designed Easy A's. Next up, I have Glorio, the boy. You guys know how I feel about Glorio. Has ability access to action breaking, multiple supers. You know, we're seeing up to 5 and 6 super attacks a turn. Has that permanent support in slot 3. Extremely good support, right? You run double Glorio. It's essentially like a 220% leader skill. You guys know how Glorio operates. He's goated for sure. Really love Glorio. One of my favorite TURs, and we've talked about him extensively on the channel. Next up, we have Texel. More healing, more Rainbow Orb fun, right? You guys know how I feel about Texel. He works out very well next to Buhan and things like that. With him, I have his partner, the STR cell. Think he's very good. The issue for me with him is just that tournament participants restriction, but he has become much better with the access to the revive and his domain. Both very nice mechanics. Kid Goku, a GOAT in Festival. You guys know how he is. The ability to stack, puts up very impressive numbers, and is really good in Festival of Battles. He is a part of my strategy for the Festival of Battles. Whenever I decide to upload that video, he will be a part of it. Next up, we have Pat the Power Kid Goku. Really like him. Good support, has damage reduction support for everybody, works well on his own, and is really good on the youth setup alongside characters like this guy here to make that youth team go. He works out very well. Next up, we have the androids. The only reason I don't have them up here is they give you 1 turn of immunity when this fat boot essentially gives you 2, and that's what it comes down to. And last but not least, we have Chadets. What we'll do is we will just put this right here, and I just wanted to toss him on the list just to toss him on the list. So there we go, right? That is everything that we want here. We don't want to check the spelling on that. You need to see that. But this is the list right now for TURs. Let me know down below what you guys think. How did this turn out? We kind of went through the end there a little bit quick because these are just older units that we've talked about a lot in recent memory. And this is how things go. So again, if I missed any like major notable Super Easy A's and stuff like that, just let me know. Some of the other ones like Gogeta and Vegito would go in A tier from the 10th anniversary and stuff like that. A lot of these other Super E's would probably go like B tier and stuff like that. But this is what the list is right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you thought down below. Leave a like if you did enjoy, and subscribe if you were new, so that way you don't miss out on any of my Dokkan content. That's all I got for you guys in this one. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one.